There we go. All right, welcome. We are now going to get started. Thank you for joining us. My name is Mike Fogel, and I am the founder and director of the Child and Family Art Therapy Center, also the Art of Friendship Social Skills program. So we provide therapy, individual therapy for a wide range of childhood challenges. Behavioral, emotional challenges, social challenges, and then we have a subspecialty in working with neurodiverse children, so kids with ADHD, autism, learning differences. And today's topic is your personal power project. And I nicknamed this talk about bullies, and coping with bullies, meanies, and difficult kids, because this is the real world that kids live in. And the kids that tend to be picked on happen to be the most kind, gentle kids who maybe are slow processors. And so they wind up being easy targets. In some cases, they might have some social challenges as well and not always know how to fit in. So are they doing anything that might put a target on their back as well? So we never blame the victim, but are there things that the victims can learn in order to both protect themselves, to engage in a way that doesn't even put themselves out there in the community as maybe a target? How do you walk into a room? How do you carry yourself? So there's all sorts of talk about that. So that's really what we're going to get into today. One type hour. There's almost no theory to this. This is all practical kid stuff we're going to talk about. So how can you talk to your child about these difficult social situations? When there are bullies, meanies, and difficult kids. Okay. And it's not touching. Hold on. I have to make sure that it knows that. There we go. Two little bits of commercial for you. One is I wrote a book for parents, caregivers, and professionals. There you have it. Yay! I just want. And this book is about how you can reinforce your child's acquisition of social skills and coping skills. So it's a book for parents and professionals. And there's both a QR code for in-person people, and there's also a QR code for people in virtual land, in Zoom land. And this slide's going to come up at the end as well if you're interested. One more resource for you. This is free. I created a YouTube channel for which we are recording this video. And so on our YouTube channel, it's all of these presentations that I do on all different topics: anxiety, anger, intro to social skills. Essentially, I also have two presentations that sum up my book on how you can reinforce social skills at home. So Mike Fogel's Art of Friendship is the name of it, and it supports all children, but specifically most of the presentations were designed for kids who are neurodiverse. This slide will come up at the end as well if you want to get that. And so the main things that we want to talk about today are to normalize how there are challenging kids out there. We also want to note that any talk about bullies really needs to be in the context of larger social skill discussion, because there are certain just life skills, social skills that your child needs in order to engage in the social world, including healthy assertiveness, problem solving, a few other concepts that your child will need to know to decipher who is me and who's not. I've had many clients come to me and they said, oh, I have a bully. And in fact, what the child's doing isn't actually bullying. It's everyday sort of teasing. But the child who has a hard time discriminating, reading social cues and discerning like which behavior is which, sometimes conflates and thinks that everyone's mean. The world is a minefield. So that causes them to react defensively to sometimes neutral comments. And so what is everyday teasing and joking? What is true bullying? Let's define that. How can you recognize that in the world, in other kids? What's the difference in their behavior and the social cues? So we're going to be talking about that, ways that your child can defend themselves, what their role is, what your role is as their support person. And in the last 15, 20 years or so, there has been a real emphasis in schools and in states put on bullying and anti-bullying programs because um, there were some very, very widely publicized terrible outcomes from bullying. There were a few suicides back in the early 2000s. Obviously, there's like school shootings, things like that. And so this idea of bullying became, okay, well, obviously it's intolerable, but what happened was schools are now legislating against it. So let's have everyone be on the lookout. All children need to become police people looking for meanness. Who's being mean? Who's being a bystander, right? Who's the bully, who's the bystander? And then they were supposed to report it to school, which is good. And that's a part of my message today is that yes, the child, if they're being bullied, they do need to communicate to you and to their supports at school. But also, what I want to assert today is we want your child to be the front line of defense and to start to try to shut down bullies in a safe way, in a peaceful way themselves. That'll help them gain confidence that they can navigate the world. Because let's say they have one bully in second grade. Well, in fourth grade, there could be a different kid who's mean. So then now your child's sort of like going through life, sort of telling on people, getting other people to help them. But if they can learn how to defend against bullies and sort of shut it down themselves, they actually might not have to worry about the next bully, the next bully, the next bully. Because in fact, we got into bullies even as adults. Like there's still jerks out there. So how do we deal with them? I went to a training, continuing education training years ago, and this person who specialized in anti-bullying responses for kids talked about how modern society is teaching kids to become emotional marshmallows. That's what his I think he was saying it very strongly for effect. But let's start with this premise. A lot of kids are relying on adults to take care of their bullying situation. And they don't really have an answer, which makes them feel small. They have low confidence. So we want to help your child. And if you signed on late, the title page of this is your personal power project. I want your child to walk out into their world feeling, I can handle myself. Someone might say something or do something. I have an answer. That is true self-esteem. True self-esteem is the confidence that, okay, around the next corner, I'll be okay. And when kids, reach upper elementary school into middle school and beyond, their developmental task is to become independent. That's what they're working on. And if they keep getting hit up by mean kids that knock them down, and their only response is by getting help from adults, then they don't feel independent. So it kind of thwarts that drive for independence too. And that can hurt their self-esteem. So for all these reasons, this is why I'm so glad that you're with us today. So we are going to power up your child. First, I have a few preliminary social concepts that we want to get on board with for your child. Here is a very simple one, but it's foundational. For very young kids, we call it the Team for Fun. And what I'm speaking about in this very simple lesson, which we teach in sort of a multi-sensory fashion there's always a visual, these posters. You're going to see a lot of posters today. The Team for Fun concept essentially states that we all are interdependent. You're counting on me to keep things comfortable for you. I'm counting on you to keep things comfortable for me. And we super simplify it for young kids like this, and I have an older kid version of this I'll share as well. So for preschoolers, elementary, we call it the Team for Fun. So what does everyone want? Everybody wants fun. And fun is kid code for feeling good, feeling safe, feeling comfortable. So fun encompasses a lot of positive feelings for kids. And just so you know, I've had parent pushback. Well, we can't have fun all the time. Yes, that's true. That's a very parental adult concept. But for when I'm teaching it to kids, everybody wants fun. Let's see if we can agree on that. Okay, so then if 2 kids are together, how many kids are hoping to have fun and feel good? 2. What if 4 kids are together? 4 kids are hoping to have fun. What if 7 kids are all together? Well, all 7 want to feel good. Right? They want to have fun. So Everyone wants to have fun and feel good. And 90% of kids out there are on the fun team. They're pretty much ready to collaborate in fun. But everyone gets their fun in different ways. That's going to be the next thing. So it's your job. It's everyone's job. It's your job, your job, your job, your job. Everyone in Zoom land. It's everyone's job to keep this next interaction happy and comfortable for everyone. So that's concept one. I also want to share with kids that most people are on the team for fun, and we're going to have a slide about that later. The next critical concept that your child will need to learn before we even talk about bullies is theory of mind. Theory of mind, also known as perspective taking, is the awareness and acceptance that different people have different thoughts and feelings and motivations than I do. So although everybody wants fun, most people get their fun in different ways. And so to prove it, we have this chart. So everyone wants fun, but now the new concept in this poster is that everyone gets their fun in different ways. People like certain things. You might have some things in common, you might have things different, and that's okay. But also we want to find out what's in people's mind, what bothers them. So check this out. So we have these two rows across. Now the three smiley faces there, those are not hats or hair. That's an X-ray. So those are minds. So we have orange brain, green brain, blue brain. Right? These three different minds. And then when I'm teaching this, we have different volunteers from a social skills group. Who wants to be orange brain? Who wants to be blue brain? And so on. And so then I have them volunteer. So let's start with the top row across. Well, what's something that you like? And they fill in, well, I like Minecraft. I like playing soccer. They go, wait a minute, can the two of you still be friends? Can the two of you be in this room and not attack each other? They go, yes. Well, how come? And they say, well, it's okay that we have different minds. We have different ideas. We like different things. Precisely, exactly. So let's make it okay. People like different things. So don't get mean to others if they don't like something. If someone likes something, don't say like, that's stupid or that's babyish, as a lot of kids do. Now, someone might say that to you. We're going to talk about that. How do you handle that? But first, let's acknowledge that different people have different minds. So most kids want to have fun, but they might approach their fun in different ways. 10% of kids get their fun by bullying. We're going to talk about bullies in a few slides. And then if you read across the lower row, it says something that annoys you. What is one thing that a child does? It really bothers you. And so the kids said, if someone screams in my ear, if they scream. Okay? So then we find out, okay, we just found out what's in orange brain's mind. Orange mind hates it when you scream. Should we do more of that or less of that? Less, say the kids. Right. So yeah, so once you find out what's in someone's mind, something that annoys them, a pet peeve of theirs, do that less. If you find out what someone likes or topics that they like to talk about, do that less or more. Right. So let's start to think about that. And finally, at the bottom, make that high for you. Across the bottom, there's a stop sign there. When someone says stop, that is your social cue of what's in their mind. When someone says stop, that means their mind doesn't like it. That's something that bothers them. That means don't do that now. And don't do that an hour from now. Don't do that again tomorrow. You found out what's in their mind. So stop truly means stop, but it also reveals that invisible thing that's in someone else's mind. So theory of mind is important for the next steps we're going to get to in talking about bullies. I need to step away from the camera for 1 minute to hide the ribbon across the bottom. There we go. Now you can see the stop sign. And I have to remind it that we are here. Okay. For the kind, gentle child who is being bullied, they sometimes come to a point by the time they come to therapy with me, and they start to feel as though, well, I'm just a passive player in my life. Like, I'm, I'm just destined to be bullied. I also have kids with anger who say, I have an anger management plan, and it's as if they're fated to have that meltdown at 3 o'clock, or, I'm just going to be bullied. So when they come to me, they have this sort of learned helplessness. They feel really bad. Their confidence is low. So this is a very critical lesson before we even get to talking about bullies. And this has to do with agency and your child's ability to self-direct, to powerfully take their life in positive ways. So I tell the story. If you all look at, there's that little person on that road. So they're walking, and this is your life. You're walking on the road of your life, but then you can see the road splits. There's a fork in the road, and that's a choice. That's a choice point. Now you could, if you're mindful and if you have the right skills, you could go up and take that road to happiness. But if you are not mindful, you're impulsive, or if you don't have skills on board, you could go crashing down that jagged line, trip over that log, down the road to sadness or anger, right? So right there, where the road splits, that's decision point. And there are little choices all day, like, do I want chocolate or vanilla? But there are big choices also. Ooh, there's this kid who's being mean to me. Am I going to use the strategy or not? Am I going to figure out a way to shut this down? If you have the skill on board, right? If you know the skill to use, am I going to use it or not? When someone doesn't have a skill, they don't have a choice. They're probably going to go down that road to sadness. So the point of teaching social skills and teaching anti-bullying tactics is your child now has a toolbox. And now it's just simply a matter of choice. Do I want this to happen? Or would I choose the road to happiness? Every child that I talk to, except for the most oppositional child, says, I would prefer the road to happiness. Yeah, and my point here is you have the power. You have the power. You can decide once I teach you just a few tips, if you like, in positive ways. And so at that stop sign, right at the decision point, you need to stop and think something. What might happen if I do this? What might happen if I don't do this? So that's how we preamble discussing bullies. You have the power to take your life in positive ways. And really, I've built my whole career on that. Professionally, so I really live by it. And you can see here we're extending the road to happiness concept, where there are multiple decision points, right? You can take your life, you may take the hard way. If you keep not making the choice that happiness, you can go down, down, down. Or at each decision point, you can elevate your life. 1, decision 2 goes to 3 and 4, and so on. So, and I even tell kids, even in the most horrible of circumstances, you still can make the best. Let's imagine that there was someone who, God forbid, but was in a horrible accident, they were paralyzed, now they're going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of their life. So, right there, you could say that their road could be pretty low. It could be really upset and devastated, right? It's a real trauma and loss and tragedy, of course. But then, as they start to heal, there is a choice. Do I wallow and sort of stay in the dark and stay isolated and say, well, that's it, my life's over? Or do I take the road to happiness and maybe I start to go to some wheelchair exercise lessons, or wheelchair dance, or wheelchair sports, or do things that start to elevate my life? So even if there's some horrible setback, you still can take the road to happiness to make the best of things. So I want to make sure that kids know that. Now that your child knows that they do potentially have the ability to take the road to happiness by making a decision and using certain skills, let's teach a few very core critical skills that your child can use. So again, we're still not even talking about bullies, but we're just talking about ways that your child can show up in their world in a way that protects them. So this is assertiveness. Now this is my assertiveness triptych. There's these three columns. Sharing it this way is good for, you can teach it to probably like older elementary school students, like 5th grade and on up, using this. I have a simpler one that comes on the next slide. And so 3 quick stories. So on the left, we have the passive approach to sticking up for yourself. On the far right, we have the other extreme, aggressive, right? Passive or aggressive. And in the middle, we have assertive. So we're going to define assertive through these stories. If you are on the left column, if you're passive, that means you don't speak up. You don't let people know what you want or what you need. And so essentially, in that relationship, you make yourself invisible. They don't know what you want. They don't know what's in your mind. Remember, different kids have different minds. They don't know if they should stop doing something. So this child, they might do something that bothers you, but if you don't let them know, they have no shot of stopping. Right? So it's effectively, in an assertiveness situation, you made yourself invisible. On the right column, in a sticking up for yourself situation, some kids now, they don't know what to do, might build up, and then they scream, "Leave me alone, you're driving me crazy, we're not friends anymore," right? That's more aggressive. "I hate you." And that's more like they're now the one who is present. And they have that cartoon mallet and they're bopping people, they're making them invisible, right? If you scream, if you chew people up. So if your response is aggressive, angry, verbal hostility, you make other people invisible. So, and then you might put a target on your back because then people might want revenge on you. So on either extreme, you're not really that's not healthy assertiveness. Let's get to the middle column. Here, no one's going to be invisible. I want you to be there. Tell my client, be there. And so you're there, and your friend says, "This is what I want." You say, "Okay, I hear you, and this is what I need." Right? Now, two people are there. You can respect the other person's words if they're not garbage, if they're not mean. And you have your feet planted firmly on the ground. This is where I stand. This is what's okay with me. This is what I want or need. That is assertiveness. You're not destroying the other person. No one's invisible. That's kind, it's respectful, it's staying engaged. So you can teach this sort of conceptually to older kids as preamble, but everyone that I work with, I've taught this to adults in parenting work, having one parent use this. These are I statements, but we have a little spin on that. Because once again, this is your personal power project. So we talk about the power of I. When you use I statements, essentially you're pointing to yourself, saying, I feel this, I feel frustrated, I feel scared, I feel confused. I feel is the beginning of getting help, usually from an adult. But you might not want to use I feel statements necessarily with another child, but you can say, I need you to stop. I need some space. So you point to yourself in assertiveness situations. That's healthy assertiveness. And let's say you're just having a debate or a discussion with someone. You can say, "Oh, I hear you. You're negotiating. I hear you, but I feel this way." So that's respectful. You're not screwing up the other person. You can stay friends. This is where I stand on it. This is what's needed if your child is going to get their needs met and not feel trampled on. They're not going to be passive players in their life. So this is one way to take the road to happiness. The power of I often begins collaboration. It alerts the other person that, okay, now we have to compromise. You want this, well, I want that. You want to play this, well, I wasn't in the mood to play that. I want to play this. Or if a child does something mean, you can say, "Can you please stop? I need you to stop. That really bothers me." Right? And I contrast that with the boo of you, boo for young kids. Because the boo of you in assertiveness situations, if you point out at other people, you put them on the defensive. You never listen. You never do this. You always do that. When you point out at other people, they're now backpedaling, they're defensive. You might make them actually feel aggressive towards you. I ask my clients, when you point out at other people, when you're in a sticking up for yourself situation, do they really feel like helping you or not? Right? They're going to get more defensive. They're going to be like, "This person's mean." So no, I'm not going to listen to you. But it comes out so much more softly when you're not pointing out at others with you, right? You point to yourself. That's your power. It helps. It's just more effective. So that's why it's your power. So everyone, I want to practice the power of I. If I have a reward system at home, I'm giving targeted praise and tokens for every time your child uses the power of I. Really critical at all levels of relationship. Let's do one more that's related to problem solving. It's also related to empowering your child to feel more confident, more stronger in the world. Comes with a story, as most of my lessons do. So here we have this bridge. And so, we don't want a bridge to crumble, but what happens if a bridge crumbled under the weight of their vehicles, right? There'd be carnage, death, it would be awesome. So we don't want the bridge to crumble under stress. And interestingly, in engineering and design, the force that something puts on another object is called stress, which is funny because human beings, we have stress too, when the light pushes on us, right? So stress, it's a great word coming out of physics. And so if you're not going to crumble, the story that I tell is, so this bridge, a bridge designer, think about, well, how heavy, how much stress are the vehicles going to put on this bridge, right? On this structure. How much stress is it going to put on? So in this picture, there's a car that's a couple tons, there's a truck that's several tons. I'm too far away. So it's 4 tons and 1 ton. So 5 tons, say, of stress is going to be put on this bridge. So the bridge designer thinks, if this bridge has to hold up 7 tons worth of weight, or whatever it is, then I need to use materials that can hold up that same amount of weight or more. So for a child, I want them to learn if-then thinking. If someone does something, then I will respond this way. Parentheses, that's good for me and the group. So if there's a bully and my then is to punch them in the nose, well, is that really good for me? What's my reputation going to be? Might I get in trouble? So that might not be a good then for you. But if we can start to develop some thens for every if, you're going to walk out in the world thinking, okay, I got this. And the more times we do this, my goal with my client is to help them not only learn a few if-thens for a specific thing, but if they can just memorize, okay, if I can come up with a then for every situation, that's true self-esteem. I can handle myself. I'm not going to crumble around the next social situation. So it's a little more language for you if you're thinking about talking about this stuff with your child. Let's not crumble. And you can tell stories about yourself, times where maybe you did kind of crumble, but you learned from it, and the next time you found ways to handle a similar adverse situation. So if then, don't crumble. For every if, there's always a then. There's one more thing that sometimes makes kids vulnerable to meanness or to very powerful kids, and that's if they don't have problem-solving skills. So we're still talking about social skills before we do anti-bullying, but stay with me. We're going to talk about anti-bullying strategies as well in just a moment. Life is full of obstacles. This is visual problem solving. So imagine, once again, story form. You're on your road to happiness. There's that smiley face at your road. But then on your path to safety, enjoying your day, this obstacle, here's this brown boulder that's dropped out of the sky by the hand of fate, right? Higher power, God, whatever you call it, something plunks this person in your path. It doesn't have to be person. It could that rock could also represent homework, and you want to get to your relaxation time. So that obstacle represents any obstacle. Okay, you have this in the way. So you have a choice. You could drop to your knees and cry. You could rage at the obstacle. You could curse the hand of fate that threw that obstacle down. You could give up and walk away, but you're no closer to your happiness. So how do you get to, back on your road to happiness? So you're going to have to make a move, come up with some options. And so when I talk about this with kids, I say literally in the story, just this character on the line, how can you get past this obstacle? And they say over, around, under, and through. Some kids say dynamite, we can blow it up, sure. So be creative. But I'm going to come back to that creative thing. Some kids are going to say very creative solutions to problems. For the child who comes to me and they have learned helplessness, or maybe they because of executive functioning issues, they are not great social problem solvers. This is a way for them to learn and practice this idea. So for every problem, let's see if you can come up with 4 or up to 4 solutions. Kids who are passive or who struggle with with problem solving might turn to you and say, "I can't," right? Or they'll say, "I don't know." Very common. I get that all the time. But here's where that "I don't know" might also be calling for you to rescue them. You might start to provide solutions. But I'll say, "No, think about it for a little bit," or even like, "Let's take a break, 15 minutes, or even tomorrow we're going to come back. Think about what are some ways that you can get around this obstacle." Okay. Now, for some kids also, they might try to shut it down by saying outrageous things. I have had several children who, they got in trouble at school, they got a bad grade from a teacher, the teacher doesn't like me. Okay, so what are your options? Well, I can blow up the school. I got that, as a very dramatic, thing. I've had kids say, "I'm just not going to do any work for the teacher. Essentially, I'm going to go on strike." So my question is, okay, who's that going to hurt? Does that hurt the teacher? They're going to still collect their paycheck. And who does that actually hurt? Well, yourself. So you don't want to hurt yourself. That's not good for you. Right? So we're going to write these things down. If your child says some outrageous or even just not a workable solution, still write it down. Because if you start to censor and if you start to edit right away, they're going to say, "See, I can't do it." They're going to get frustrated. So I will write down even the most outrageous thing in line number 1 and 2. Blow up school, got it. Okay. Quit school, join the circus. Write down. And then after those 2, then I'll say, "Well, you'll probably get in big trouble if you blow up the school. Do you think that's going to work for you? Is that actually doable?" No. What about number 2? Just quitting. Is that going to help you? No. So let's see if you can come up with 2 realistic ones or doable ones. So indulge in the first couple of outrageous ones. Try not to shut them down. Go get into power struggles, and then that effectively ends the problem solving. So have this out. You can make a simple version of this with stick figures. Let's have your child practice problem solving over and over in rote fashion, in a very structured way. And eventually they can get the hang of it. Okay, let's see if you can, and then later you can start to do it verbally. Let's see if you can generate up to 4 options. And if they come up with 3, don't make it a failure situation. If there are 2 good options, leave it at that. If there are 1 not so good and 3 options, leave it at that. So we don't have to drive kids mad trying to get all 4 options. But problem solving. Your child, again, this is one more tool in their toolbox that can help them be more confident entering the world, so they don't feel that kids are just bullies if your child doesn't get their way. Now we are into the bullying suite of coping skills. Thank you for doing all the intro work with us. Yeah. So now, so many children that I work with, again, say, "Well, everyone's mean. Who's your bully?" Everyone. Well, right there, that's a red flag for me, because that's real distorted thinking, but they might feel like the world is mine too. And so the first step is I really want to do some education that most people in the world, again, team for fun, just want to have fun. Most kids are just out there having fun. Now, some kids might get their fun in ways that you're not comfortable with. They might joke in ways that are kind of teasing. Teasing isn't bullying. The child who in the locker room cracks the towel on someone and sort of, whips them in the leg or in the tush, for the most part, that's probably not bullying, unless it's targeting them over and over and they don't stop, right? So most kids are out there trying to have fun, and they just are having fun their way. So if a child says something that's even too honest or unkind, right, is that bullying? On average, if you really study society, sort of want somewhere between like 87 to 93% of people are nice average people, and so it's like 7 to 13%-ish. So let's take this, split the difference. It's like 10% of the world are outright jerks, and they have something in them that makes them want to dominate others, right? And to be really cool, to be better than, so they lift themselves up by crushing people's spirit. So what is that? That's 1 out of 10. That's 10 out of 100. So if you're in a class, maybe there's 1 or 2, bullies, probably 1 true bullies who really want to, be cruel. The other kids are out there looking for fun, and so let's state that. So now, therefore, if that's so, how can you tell the difference? So we have to talk about the social cues. How do you differentiate a true bully versus a teasing joke or a joking teaser? And so here I have this chart that uses top row is social cognition, it's thinking, and then the bottom 2 are nonverbal cues to look for. So think, on the left column, a true bully. Is this kid who's walking up to me or I'm interacting with, are they usually mean to me or almost never mean to me? Right? That alone should start to cue you. If someone's usually mean to you, truly, okay, you can actually have your mind ready. Okay, I'm going to defend. I'm going to use my anti-bullying strategy as soon as this person's near me. But for the other 9 kids out of 10, or 90 kids out of 100, when they walk up, oh, they're usually neutral to nice. One time this kid said an unkind thing, but maybe they had a bad day. So they're not targeting me. So in your mind, you differentiate usually mean or rarely mean. Rarely mean to nice. Okay, I'm going to be using all my social skills: power of I, problem solving, flexibility. And if there's someone who is the 90%er and they say, oh, you got ketchup on your shirt. If you say, oh, I really didn't appreciate when you said that, or I didn't like that, that hurt my feelings, or power of I felt bad when you said that. They usually go, oh, sorry. The 90% of kids will back off. They won't do it again because they're on the team for fun. They want to preserve the interaction. The 13% of kids, they're the ones who will take the power of I and be like, oh yeah, I've got a mark, right? I've got a target now. Okay, stop. Okay, I see that you're going to play the bully victim game. You're my target. So the first step should always be to try to engage with kids, have fun, use your words if you don't like what someone's doing. See if they change. If they change, you're golden. That kid's on the team for fun. Also, cues to look for to really differentiate. Mean kids, mean comments, they almost can't help it, but they'll say mean things for the most part with kind of a serious look on their face. Their eyebrows lower, right? And their face looks serious. Versus the teasing joker, they're like, oh, you're such a dork, right? They could say like, hey, you're crazy. But their face smiles, their eyebrows are up. So there's a visual cue for someone who's kind of a teasing joker. They're still happy, they're joking with you. But the serious kid's like, you're such a dork. Right? Eyebrows go down. You can see in virtual attendees, you can see. So what is a visual cue for most kids? Once in a while, there will be a meaty, a true bully who is just taking glee and has a happy face. But for the most part, they're kind of cutting. So their face is down more like a wolf. And what does their voice sound like? Look, I'm going to say the same words in 2 different voices. So the bully is like, you're such a dork. The teasing joker goes, you're such a dork. Right? High sing-songy voice. They're likely on your side. That's an auditory cue that the other person is playful versus you're such a dork. Nobody likes you, right? Nobody likes you. Often bullies will whisper they're bullying because they don't want to be caught. So teasing jokers will be loud, sing-songy. Oh my gosh, you are unbelievable. I can't believe you just did that. The teasing joker, the true bully, I can't believe you just did that. Right? Nobody likes you. They whisper it, their voice lowers. So think, usually bully, not a bully. Notice your eyes and your ears. Are the cues there? Low eyebrows, low voice, serious? They probably mean it. Okay, you can defend yourself. Don't be so defensive for the 90%. You can be ready to play and have fun, joke around. So that's at the beginning of the conversation early. I want to make sure that the child is reading the room right. Okay. Now let's start to create some defenses, some protection for your child against the serial bully, the repeat offender. So once again, let's define bullies. It's going to come up again. What does a true bully want? Right, so different people get their fun in different ways. A true bully wants to make themselves feel big by making you feel little. So they want to squash you. They want you to put on a big show. They want entertainment. So they want to say like, you're a loser. And you go, hey, you can't say that. That's mean. Stop that. No, really. And so the more you protest, the more you get upset. That's fuel. So you're feeding the fuel for the bully engine. So they want to feel big, make you feel little. They want you to put on a big show. And they want to do it in secret. They don't want to be caught because they know if they are caught, they're going to get in trouble. So bullying never happens under a teacher's nose, or it doesn't. It's usually farther away from supervision because the bullies know. So we want to do the opposite of what the bully wants. Okay, so here we go. Number one, stay close to the herd. So here we have, my cartoon picture of a herd of sheep. They're all together. There's power in numbers. It's harder for a fox to go in there and pick off the sheep. But if you wander away from the herd, if you're solo, it's much easier. So how can we help a child? How do we translate that to life? Make sure that you're walking in the hall with a buddy. So don't walk by yourself if you have a true bully. Align yourself with the positive, nice kids. Who are the kids that are usually nice to you? Make sure that you hang with them. It's going to be harder for the bully to really single you out if you're hanging with the nice kids. I'm not even saying friends. If your child has social challenges and maybe doesn't have a pack of friends, at least who are the kids that are usually nice to you? Walk with them. Just kind of like make that a priority. Leaving class, walking down the hall, transitioning. Where do you sit at lunch? Are you sitting with the nice kids? Okay. So stay with the herd. Stay with the flock. Second one is a clever nonverbal way to peacefully wrest power. So again, if you happen to be alone or a bully starts to come towards you, and you're still sort of like in this more vulnerable place and they've attacked you, simply vote with your feet. So move yourself near an authority figure, move near a teacher who supervises. So let's say you're out at recess or just bully comes towards you, you identify them as the person who targets you, saunter just gradually near a teacher, stay about 10 feet away. And then you can cross your arms, you can look right at your bully, and they're going to walk away because they're not going to bully you right in front of the teacher. Your child hasn't had to whine, scream, hit. And if your child does that like 2 or 3 times, the bully's going to think, oh man, this is going to happen every time. I'm not wasting my energy. Bullies are lazy. They want an easy target. So if your child just borrows a teacher's power, borrow the adult's power, bask in the glow, you can see in the picture, they're there, cross your arms, you straight on your bully, off they go. They're not going to venture that if you're just basking in the power of that supervision. And just a few times, the bully's going to make you less of a mark. Non-verbally, peaceful. Your child hasn't had to hit or to say mean things. Number 3 is something I had to come up with this strategy because it's interesting. A number of the kids that I worked with around bullying kept pursuing the bully as a friend, which you would think is sort of like paradoxical. It's kind of counterintuitive. Why would you do that? But sometimes there's something about bullies or powerful kids that's attractive. They might have big senses of humor. They might have big personality. Maybe they have a pack of followers. So man, like I can just get in with them. on a nonverbal level. So unconsciously, the child might feel like, yeah, like I want to do that. So I've had a lot of conversations with my clients about, is this kid good for you? And so you want to do that in question form. The social coaching is important because it becomes Romeo and Juliet. Like if you tell your child, that kid's no good for you, don't hang out with them, then your child might be like, huh, maybe I should hang out with them, like, they're forbidden. But if you do it in question form, your child does the assessment. And so I've had to have, multiple conversations. And the first several times my client said, yeah, but then they kept getting themselves burned. They kept getting burned by coaching it. And by the third and fourth time I asked that question, are you sure this kid's good for you? They go, no, they keep being mean to me. There's no such thing as a frenemy. That is a stupid term I disagree with. There's friends, and this kid's a frenemy. So that means that this kid's sometimes nice and sometimes mean. Well, that's real manipulation. They're like, and why would you sign up for a friendship if someone is mean to you half the time or a third of the time? So a frenemy is not take out the friend. They're an enemy. Are they good for you? No. Who do you want to hang out with? People who make you feel good? Yes. So lots of conversations about who you're choosing to be around. So there's something just protective about that. Next, I want to tell you one of the simplest things, again, for the child who is neurodiverse, or quiet, or shy, they might not have an easy time bantering, coming up with a witty comeback against mean comments. And so over time, this is something that I developed in concert with kids, and it had immediate success for the first child I tried it with. And so that just excited me. That was great positive feedback. So we tried it again and again. And I would say like a vast majority of the kids have found this technique very successful. And it's also helpful because they don't have to have witty, zany comebacks for kids. It's called the mirror technique. Essentially, in this picture, you can see the orange person's holding up a mirror to the bully. So the bully is going to say some awful things. And when you hold up the mirror, you're showing the bully their words. Well, how do you hold up a mirror and show the bully themselves? You are going to repeat. You're going to copy what the bully says in word and in tone and volume. The rules are, you should never initiate. You're never going to say a mean thing. I would never tell that to a child. But if you know that there's someone who keeps going after you, you're going to start to do it. So if someone says, you're a dork, you say, you're a dork. If the bully goes to you, if they whisper, you're a loser. You whisper in the same tone, you're a loser. Nobody likes you. Nobody likes you. So I role play this with my clients. I get to be mean to them. They get to ward me off. And usually after the third insult, everyone thinks that you're worthless. Child says, everyone thinks that you're worthless. And then I, as the bully, go, and I stomp off. Because bullies, again, what do they want? They want power. They want you to feel small, and they want you to put on a big show. So you're doing the opposite of the bully wants. And the bully, this is completely true, they run out of insults. If you're not feeding the fire, if you're not giving that fire oxygen, the bully, it's the rule of three practically. I've had one bully do four, and then I switch it, and I have the child loves to be mean to me. So the child, I'm like, you can say anything to me. Talk about my hair, my glasses, just be mean. Your glasses are ugly. I go, your glasses are ugly. And one more note for kids who are very literal, kids maybe who are like on the spectrum, like they might not have glasses, or like the bully might not have glasses. So sometimes they get caught up. When the bully says your glasses are ugly, they're like, well, the bully doesn't have glasses. I'm like, no, it doesn't matter. In fact, it's even better if your comeback doesn't make any sense to the bully. So if the bully says your glasses are ugly, even if the child doesn't have glasses, you say your glasses are ugly. Same voice. If the bully says your glasses are ugly, you say your glasses are uglier, and your mom dresses you funny. Like if you escalate the situation, then the bully's going to have more fuel. They're going to go back and forth. So that's why only use their words, same volume, same energy, they tire, they leave. And if you do that a couple times, the bullies are like, you're no longer a target. You're no longer fun for me. I don't get my jollies because you're not giving me what I want, and your child wins. And that's why this is your child's personal power project. That first time that I came up with this, in talking with this child, the child told me, we had all these comebacks, they were trying to come back. He said, I just can't do it. I just don't have any comebacks because I have to think. So then I said, okay, don't go for comebacks anymore. Just use their words. The next week, the child came to me in therapy, threw open the door, hands like over his head, like I did it, I won. And so I've just taught this for 20 years since. Really excited. Next, I want to power this up a little more for older kids. So this works. I mean, if there's a teenager who's getting verbal abuse, the teenager absolutely can still use the mirror technique, but teenagers like this. At this point, I want to pause and also add one more thing parenthetically, which is that yes, I want to empower your child to stick up for themselves, to shut down bullies. But it's not an either or. I also want them to tell you, but I want you, the caregiver, to say, well, did you use your strategy? Like, what strategy are you using? I want you to sort of try to put it back on them, so we're empowering them to do it. And we're going to tell you, and we're going to tell school. So there can be two approaches. And in particular, all these techniques that I'm offering are for any kind of verbal bullying, which really tends to be the majority of bullying, actually. It's going to mean this. If bullying rises to the level of physical, there's tripping, physical domination. I don't want your child, unless your child's learning karate, like I don't want your child to fight, kick, to anything that's going to get them in trouble. Then do not just go right to authorities and say, like, and physically bullied here. Every school has rules against that. Bullying, there have to be super consequences. Every school district and private school at this point has an anti-bullying policy. So you should tell them, and you should hold them to hold their feet to the fire. They should be using it. If your child's been bullied once, that bully should be on the first rung. And there's escalating consequences for that child based on how many incidents there are. So, and if your child is not being protected by the authorities at school, then they go to supervisors, go to higher up yourselves to make this a bigger issue. Because you can't let your child be bullied. But at the same time, I want your child to work on their coping with bullies so that they feel powerful for life. This next one I'm going to do short shrift on. You can have older kids who have any interest in history or civics. America has freedom of speech. And the one common response that most bully victims is, be quiet, you can't say that. And then schools, have rules, and schools like, bully, you can't say that. So everyone's trying to silence the bully, right? But as we know, in the world, when there are countries that silence freedom of speech, really like a hard, squelching it, what happens in that country? Eventually, there's revolutions, there's anger, right? People's voices aren't heard. So remember when I talked about that presenter who talked about, we're raising emotional marshmallows? This was his technique. And so he calls it the freedom of speech technique. And so essentially for older kids, instead of freaking out, yelling and screaming, be quiet, you can't say that, you're gonna get in big trouble. The child, the person who's being bullied, says, you give them freedom of speech and freedom of thought. So you say these things. You can just say, oh, kid says, you're an idiot. You go, oh, no, really, everyone thinks you're stupid. You go, you can think that. And they go, no, really, everyone in the world thinks that you are a worthless piece of meat. You can say that. So notice, it's not ignoring. If you just tell a child to ignore a bully, the bully is going to continue. Ignoring a bully does not work. Your child has to do something that opposes what the bully wants. So whether it's the mirror technique and staying with the herd, or if you give bullies freedom of speech, you have to stay super, super calm, and you just use these things over and over. So this is another option It's a little less kid-like, it's, and so, but the framework in this for the victim we're trying to prop up, to empower is, okay, I have 250 years of American history that says freedom of speech. Okay, I'm going to give you freedom of speech and not be bothered. But I'm not ignoring it either, right? You're showing that you go toe to toe. There's different approaches, and I've used this with some kids. We use the other one with some kids. Next, we're heading towards the end of our time. This is not blame the victim, but there are certain things that an individual child might do that might put a target on their back for other kids' hostility. And so I want my clients to know, in terms of like action reaction, a lot of the clients that I work with in social skills, they don't connect their behavior to other people's reactions. So there's this social cause and effect piece that I teach in another post that we're not going over today. So in this one, we talk about don't put a target on your back. In other words, don't annoy. So way back to that early slide, different people have different minds, Stop when kids say stop. Try to predict what kids don't like. Don't do that. So number one answer on the board is don't annoy. Stop when kids say stop. If you are, super pesky or kind of a gnat always in their way and bothering them, you might get even nice kids finally to be like, stop, leave me alone. And then my client comes to me and says, he was mean. Right? And I've seen it in social skills groups. Oh, he's being so mean. And when you didn't see the 5 things you did beforehand, before the child said, will you cut that out? So connecting behavior. So don't annoy, stop when kids say stop. Number 2, personal space. We nickname it the space bubble. If you are a space invader, if you're constantly in people's spaces and say, back up, or like they try to get more space, but you don't give them space, ultimately the kids are, it's a common, a very instinctive response for kids to push. And you might say, oh, this kid bullies me, he's pushing me away. Well, you've been minding their personal space. So don't be a space invader, don't pop the space bubble. So try to stay about 1 arm's length away. So then if this applies to your child, let's work on personal space. Closely related to that is interrupting. If your child is an exuberant conversationalist and sort of jumps in, interrupts people a lot because your child misses the social rhythm, the cues of when to join in, kids get really frustrated when you interrupt a lot. And so they might be like, they might say, shut up, in frustration because they're kids with limited social skills, depending on their age. And then my client says, oh my God, this kid was so mean. Well, I already know that this child is an interrupter. So let's work on that social skill. Are you an interrupter? Wait your turn to talk. Wait for the other person to take a breath, their shoulders to rise. So there's some visual cues I teach when we teach that. So no interrupting. Number 4 is the class clown. If your child has figured out that they can get attention by being the most ridiculous person in the room, sometimes it can be too much. And so the person who's constantly, like, metaphorically standing on their head, everything's a joke, everything is like yuck yuck, or big inappropriate comments to get attention, it can be tiresome for the other kids. And so sometimes that can put a target on your back. Oh, you're so annoying, can you stop? So notice that. So any of these little sort of social behavior types, it's important that we name them and help your child learn that this could be putting a target on your back. So try not to annoy. Let's identify certain behaviors that you can do. And here's one more, here's a bonus one. The rule police and the kid corrector. If your child is either one of these, so the rule police is the one who's correcting all the kids, sort of being like a junior teacher. Teacher wants everyone to be in their seats, and your child says, I can get in your seat, or it's not time to put that away. Your child is a junior teacher. Kids hate to be corrected by peers. They don't even like to be corrected by adults. So if your child is one of these sort of justice warriors who needs the world to really be aligned, everyone to be following the rules, that can drive peers crazy. And so then that can target on your back as well. And then we do some social skill training around this. Can you take a breath, let it go? One strategy is keep a little note, little sticky pad on the corner of your desk, and you can keep tally of it every time someone's off task, or you can write down what it was, save them up, and you can go home and like make a chart at home, tell your parent, go home and tell mom, oh my gosh, kids were off task 37 times today. It was driving me crazy. But way better to do that than to correct everyone in the room and everyone thinks your child is a little Napoleon, right? So the rule police and the kid corrector, not welcome at school. Right? And finally, this should be the last slide of the day. We're right up to our 1 hour time. Dealing with impossible kids. The kind kid, the gentle child, the child who sort of has in their mind, I want everyone to get along. They hang in there with impossible kids. So let's define impossible kids. Impossible kids are not true bullies. They're not being impossible to ruin your life. But these are kids who are like inflexible themselves. And I'm sure you all know plenty of inflexible adults. And they're just impossible to deal with. A family member, someone you work with. I call these impossible kids impossible. And there's X%, some percentage of the world are these kind of people. They're just impossible because they're just very strong-willed and flexible. For the child who's kind, who wants to be inclusive of everyone. Also, kids who are in social skills training. And when kids are in social skills, I think that there's some sort of unwritten expectation that they internalize, which is like, I'm supposed to make it work with everyone. So they stay engaged with the impossible kids, and it drives them crazy. And like, oh, we're supposed to be friends. So this poster is essentially giving your child an exit strategy. It is okay to disengage. If someone is just being impossible, you don't have to stand there and take it. So in the end, you can vote with your feet. But we don't, again, remember the assertiveness triptych? We don't want you to be aggressive. I hate you, we're not friends anymore. You're a jerk. You don't have to do that either. So what do? You're going to use a lot of the skills we've worked on. The power of I we're going to borrow, healthy assertiveness. And then at the end, your child's going to give an ultimatum. So let's say your child is trying to play or is working on a group project, not even be social, and they have an impossible kid in the group. And your child giving suggestions. The kid's like, no, they're dominating everything. It has to be their way. The child says, well, can't we just have a little bit of my idea? And the kid says, no, my way. Your child says, well, I really want to get some of my ideas in. That's the power of I. I want my ideas to be included. That is a powerful assertive statement. Good job. Applause for you. So let's say your child does that. Kid says no. Your child goes to number 2 and says, well, can we compromise? Let's use a little of both of our ideas. Another social skill that I teach, how to compromise. Too much for this talk. He goes, no, it's gotta be my way. Okay? That's strike 2 in your child's mind. Your child says, really, come on, like it's supposed to be a group project. Come on, let's use a little of my idea. I have a good idea. Kid says, no, that's 3 strikes. I'm gonna go get help. So if it's a structured thing like a group project, now I'm gonna go to the teacher. Johnny wants to only use his idea. I want to use some of my idea. Can you help? So if there's an impossible kid in a structured situation, you can get help. If it's in a social situation that's unstructured, like recess, you can give this ultimatum. Well, if you're just going to keep arguing, I'm going to go find something else to do. When you get to strike 1, strike 2, strike 3 in your mind. And then if the child does it one more time, your child says, I'm sorry, I'm out of here. Go find someone who's nice. Go find someone who's on the team for fun. Impossible people are not on the team for fun. They're not in that mutually agreed upon social setting where, I'm going to try to keep you happy and you're going to try to keep me happy. Remember that, the team for fun agreement way back on slide 1? So that's why I include that, because if they're truly not on the team for fun, you've done everything right. You were assertive. You gave your assertiveness more strongly. You gave an ultimatum and they still didn't come around. Either go get help or go find a nicer kids. You don't have to stand there and ruin your recess. Recess is only a half hour long, so go find a nice place. Right? I'm out of here. That's okay. So in conclusion, bringing it all together, social skills training, anti-bullying programs need to be in the context of some other social awareness. Your child has some context to it. 90% of kids are probably on the team for fun-ish on good days. And then 10% or so are true bullies and true bullies who want to be powerful, ruin your life, shrink you down, get attention, do it secretly. So you need to use your social cues to read the moment to figure out, okay, is this kid in the 90% of kids who I should be joking with and sort of like riffing with? Or is this kid, 10 to 13% who I have to defend against? What anti-bullying strategies are you going to use to be more powerful? Ward it off. Try your best to ward off the bully yourself, but also tell your parents, tell your helpers. And you can develop your personal power. And then this has long-reaching, childhood, life is a social skill. And so if your child's working on these things now, later, when there are big relationship decisions to make, let's say they're in a relationship with someone, and they learned in this early age about impossible people, and they're in a relationship, they really like this person, the person's attractive, they have a lot of things in common, but the person's kind of impossible. Are you going to still stick with that relationship? Or can you ultimately be like, you know what? I'm going to need an exit strategy. This isn't working for me. The seeds for that happen in childhood, with dealing with impossible kids. So knowing who you are, what's in your mind, what's in people's minds, and being able to assert your needs, make sure that you're safe is a critical skill. So that's why this is your child's personal power project. Once again, if any of you online wish for a copy of my book that can help you reinforce any learned social skills, you can click on that QR code. Put that up for 9 seconds. And there's another QR code coming on the second slide. And that is my YouTube channel, which has these presentations. And so these, I have presentations on anxiety, anger, coping skills for negative and depressive thinking, how you can reinforce social skills at home, and so on. So they're all on, it's called the Art of Friendship YouTube channel. So that's a resource for you also. Okay, thank you all. Thank you for coming in person. Thank you all for joining online. I'm going to end the recording, but if anyone has a question, I'd be happy to field questions as well. So thanks for joining. I'm going to go turn off the recording now. Oops, there we go. People signing off. Stop recording.